Throughout this semester, I learned a lot about cognitive, intellectual, and academic characteristics associated with different type of exceptionalities. I also learned how to apply the principles of universal design for learning and differentiating instruction to meet the needs and the needs of all the students in my classroom. So the types of exceptionalities. Attention deficit disorder, or ADHD, is one of the most common mental disorders affecting children. ADHD also affects many adults. Symptoms of ADHD include inattention, not being able to keep focus, hyperactivity, which is excess movement that is not fitting to the setting, and impulsivity, which is hasty acts that occur in the moment without thought. An estimated 8.4% of children and 2.5% of adults have ADHD. And ADHD is often first identified in school-age children when it leads to disruption in the classroom and problems with schoolwork. It can also affect adults, but it is more common among boys than girls. An autism spectrum disorder. Autism, or ASD, refers to a broad range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communication. According to the Center of Disease Control, autism affects an estimated 1 in 54 children in the United States today. We know that there's not one autism, but many subtypes, most influenced by a combination of genetics and environmental factors. Because autism is a spectrum disorder, each person with autism has a distinct set of strengths and challenges. The ways in which people with autism learn, think, and problem solve can range from highly skilled to severely challenged. Some people with ASD may require significant support in their daily lives, while others may need less support and in some cases live entirely independently. Several factors may influence the development of autism, and it is often accompanied by sensory sensitivities and medical issues. Seizures or sleep disorders, as well as many health challenges such as anxiety, depression, and attention issues. Signs of autism usually appear by ages 2 or 3. Some associated developmental delays can appear even earlier, and often it can be diagnosed as early as 18 months. And research shows that early intervention leads to positive outcomes later in life for people with autism. And intellectual disabilities. Intellectual disabilities is a disability characterized by significant limitations in both intellectual functioning and in adaptive behavior, which covers main everyday social and practical skills. This disability originates before the age of 22. And speech and language impairments. So speech impairments are disorders of speech sound, fluency, or voice that interfere with communication, adversely affect performance, and or functioning in the educational environment, and result in the need for exceptional student education. And speech sound disorder. A speech sound disorder is a phonological or articulation disorder that is evidenced by the atypical production of speech sounds characterized by substitution, disorientation, additions, or omissions that interfere with intelligibility. A speech sound disorder is not primarily the result of factors related to chronological age, gender, culture, ethnicity. And traumatic brain injury. So traumatic brain injury is a disruption in the normal functioning of the brain that can be caused by a bump, blow, or jolt to the head, or penetrating head injury. Everyone is at risk for a traumatic brain injury, especially children and adults. And if a child does have a traumatic brain injury, it can be harder for them to learn and be in the classroom. Social characteristics. So as ADHD. So some social characteristics of ADHD are hyperactivity, which has trouble staying calm or still. Impulsivity is acting out before thinking and blurting out loud. And for autism spectrum disorder, some social characteristics are trouble communicating, repetitive motions and behaviors, and they do not like change. Intellectual disabilities, it's just trouble remembering, difficulty showing social signs, And some social characteristics of speech and language impairment are trouble socializing and trouble communicating. And some social characteristics of traumatic brain injury are maintaining relationships, improving behaviors, and insensitivity to others' feelings. So social characteristics can be very different in all different kinds, and it's so hard to notice them in a classroom, but it's very important to be able to find them and understand so you can adapt to their difficulties. So cognitive characteristics. So for attention deficit disorder, it could lead to other health issues such as anxiety, depression, developmental delay. And for autism spectrum disorder, babies not like some cognitive characteristics of autism spectrum disorders are babies not babbling or gesturing by 12 months old, inflexibility and change of how they think or do things. And for intellectual disability is a lack of adaptive behavior and deficit in learning from experience. For speech and language impairments, they have trouble with articulation, fluency, voice, and language. And for traumatic brain injuries, they have decreased attention, difficulty with abstract concepts, and they have poor memory. For academic characteristics, attention with ADHD has difficulty following instructions and seems to not be listening when spoken directly to. Autism spectrum disorder, they have difficulty generalizing a learned skill from one setting to the next, and they struggle to remain calm without prior notice regarding a schedule change. And for intellectual disability, they have an IQ that is less than 70, and they have trouble problem solving. For speech and language impairments, some academic characteristics are improper use of words and unable to fully express ideas. And for traumatic brain injury, some academic characteristics are impaired balance, speech problems, and impairments with speech, vision, and/or hearing. Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, is a way of thinking about teaching and learning that helps give all students an equal opportunity to success. So some concepts of the it consists of three main principles. Representation, which is information presented to students in more than one format. For example, providing text, audio, video, and hands-on learning gives all kids a chance to access the material in whichever way is best for them. For action and expression, action is giving kids more than one way to interact with the materials provided and to show what they've learned. Some examples of that, they can choose between taking up traditional paper and pencil test, an oral presentation, or doing a group project. Engagement encourages teachers to look for multiple ways to motivate students. An example would be letting students make their own choices and giving them assignments that feel relevant to their own lives. How to implement universal design for learning in the classroom. You need to know the students' strengths and weaknesses, share content in various ways, give the students a voice, allow the students to learn from others, and differentiate instructions. So tailoring instructions to meet the needs of individuals, and differentiation consists of the efforts of teachers to respond to variance amongst learners in the classroom. And teachers can differentiate at least 4 ways: content, process, products, and learning environment. And whether teachers differentiate content, process, products, or learning environment, the use of ongoing assessments and flexible grouping makes a successful approach to instruction. These are just my sources. So throughout this semester, I learned a lot about cognitive, intellectual, and academic characteristics associated with different types of exceptionalities. I also learned how to apply the principles of universal design for learning and differentiating instructions to meet the needs of all the students in my future classroom. I am graduating this Saturday with a Health and Human Performance K-12 teaching degree. and I will be able to use what I've learned in this classroom and apply it to my future classroom. I will be able to read the signs and characteristics of different exceptionalities in my classroom and be able to adapt my program to meet their needs. Overall, this has been a great class that I will be able to use all the information that I learned in my future career. Thank you.